Hey everyone, it's Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Thanks a lot for coming by to check out another video. This is a video that I am super excited to do for you. I have been waiting to do this for such a long time. I finally put together all these different compilation clips and tips and strategies for you to help you out once you are actually in the estate sale so that you could find great items to flip and make a great profit for your reselling business. Now, for those of you who are coming into this video for the first time, please be aware that I did two prior videos in this series. The first one was about what estate sales are and why you should go to them. And I'm happy that a lot of you have emailed me and have let me know or messaged me in some way that that video helped demystify estate sales for you, and now you're actually going to them, you're checking them out for the first time, and you're seeing that they're a great area that you could go and source. So I'm happy to hear that. The second video that I did in the series talked about ways to prepare for the estate sale so that you could get a leg up on your competition. So make sure you check out those videos. They are important as well as this one. So if you didn't get a chance to see those, I will link to them down below in the description section. I'm also going to make a separate playlist on my channel that's called estate sales, and you could, or estate sale tips or something along those lines, and you could just go in there and see all three videos. So this is really the culmination video. I'm going to take you through different clips, video clips and pictures. Now the sound is going to be off because if I put the sound on, it's going to compete with my sound and you're not going to be able to make sense of what I'm saying. So the sound of the videos will be muted, but it won't matter because you'll just hear me talk over it and explain what I want to show you. So let's start with the first one. Now they're not in any particular order, they're just kind of random, but that's okay. We'll get all the tips in here for you and we'll work across the screen here from left to right. So let's start with this one over here. And some of you who are diehard Primetime Treasure Hunter fans may remember some of these clips, so it might be a little nostalgic for you to go back and look at some of these estate sales I've been to. So this one here has to do with the general strategy of when you get to the sale and you are waiting in line, so you haven't been called in yet. You should start looking around if you're in a location where you can see merchandise. Now, typically where that will happen is if you are waiting in a garage. There are some estate sales where either the cashier will station themselves at the garage, or it might be very, very cold, as you might remember from one of my recent haul videos, the one in the snowstorm, where it was so cold outside that the estate sale dealer let people wait in the garage. Now, there's items in the garage that you could look at and do research on to source. Don't just stand there, look ahead at the entry door, and just wait 5 minutes to go in. That's time that you could be using to check comps on your phone. So if you look around and you see anything that's interesting, like in that video, you might remember I saw a book of some old maps, and I actually came out and told you, hey, there's an old book in there with some maps. I'm going to grab that first as soon as they say we could go in. Now, you can't grab the items before they actually announce that the sale starts. That's kind of a no-no. Like if you ever watch Storage Wars, they tell you you can't touch the items, but you can look around. So you can look around. Looking around is fair game. And then, once they say, all right, it's time to go in, you could start grabbing stuff. So right here, one of the things that jumped out to me, and I'm just going to expand this screen a bit, and I'm going to press play, is you see here, this is actually my view. I am standing in line, and so to my right, there's all these boxes. So this was a summer day, or it was the end of summer, and so they had all these boxes outside, and the line formed outside. So I'm on the lawn, and it's just amazing to me as a psychologist, groupthink. And groupthink is when basically and this is a theme that I'm going to hit up at the end of this video as well. So we're going to come back to it later. But it's a situation where when people get together in groups, they tend to all kind of act the same way and think the same way. And I need you to break free of that, because if you can do that, that will help you find good items. So if you could picture this scenario, and I'll show it to you out in another moment, but everyone just has their eyes focused on the front door. No one is looking at any of these items here. And I look and I see this giant plush alligator here. And one of the things I know, is that stuffed alligators sell really well if they're large. And so this was obviously, as you could see here, this was a large stuffed plush alligator. And there you could see I grab it. State sale starts. I grab it. Boom. Put it right in my box. I'm off. Now see, there's the line. Now look where everyone is focused. Everyone's head is straight ahead. No one is looking in those boxes at all. Not a single person. I sold that alligator for 30 bucks. So it's like 30 bucks sitting there. No one's paying attention to it. That's what I mean. Right there is the best picture I could show you of groupthink. And so, look around. There's opportunities all over the place, whether or not it's in the garage or it's once you actually, if you're standing outside, wherever it may be, before the sale is that you're stationed, look around to see if there's items that you could start doing some comp research on. So that's tip number one. That can help you a lot. So number two has to do with coming up with a plan of action once you walk into that front door. And there's several different approaches that you can use. One approach you could use, and this goes back to the second video in which you're doing some prep, is you may see from the estate sale ad online, like for example, this one is one that I showed you in a prior video. You might see some rooms that have some items in there that you want to get, that you're interested in. So maybe you want to get this this gas globe, this Soyo Supreme item, or maybe you see this room here and you're like, wow, there's some beer mugs in there, some crates, or some type of item. I want to grab that football there. That looks interesting. Maybe you zoom in on, you see something about it that you like. Well, then that's the room you want to try to hit up first. Now, if you have a relationship with the estate sale dealers, once you walk in, you can ask some of them, and even if you don't have a relationship with them, you can ask them, hey, where's the room with such and such? And they could point you in the right direction, so you make sure you're not wasting time trying to find where that particular room is, because it's a matter of seconds sometimes. That's the difference between whether you're going to get the item or a competitor is going to get one of the items. So that is one strategy, is doing some advanced research and using that to pick what room you're going to go to. However, not every estate sale has good pictures in advance, and there's many of them that don't have any pictures in advance. So then when you show up to the sale, you really don't know exactly where to go. And so when that's the situation, especially if it's what they call a pick and pull estate sale, where nothing is really priced and you just go grab stuff, you're in a situation where, you're just kind of walking in and it's a free-for-all. And when that's the situation, I just want you to think of a general house plan like this one. And, if you think of your average house plan, now, of course, all these rooms are essentially empty. This is not a real picture of an actual house, so you have to use your imagination here a bit. But here's what you have to think. Where are people going to generally store things that are old and valuable? Where are they going to put it? Are they going to put it in the bathroom? Nope. Are they going to put it in the kitchen? Nope. There might be some things there. Are they going to put it in the living room? Again, there might be a few things there. There might be a few things in a bedroom or something like that. But if you're going to play the odds, the top two places that you want to go to are the basement and the attic. Those are the places. Now, generally, where I pick is the basement first, because it tends to be closest to the entranceway. So I want to get to where I could get to first. Then I will generally skip these two levels and go straight up to the attic, if there is an attic. A lot of houses don't have an attic, or they don't have an attic space that's used for any kind of storage. In that case, everything tends to go into the basement. And that's the other thing. I don't want to waste my time going upstairs trying to find an attic that's not there, unless I clearly know there is one there in advance, or I heard that there's one, or I could see one from the stairs. I will then just go generally straight down to the basement. Now, don't get me wrong, if I walk straight into the house and there's something along the way that I'm interested in on the way to the basement, I will stop and get that as well. And that is going to lead into some other tips that I'm going to show you later on. So that is that, just in terms of having some kind of search strategy in place once you're there. So the next thing I want to tell you about is, don't forget the garage. A lot of people overlook the garage. And if you remember my last estate sale haul video that I did this past weekend, The garage is sometimes, by the way, the entrance area to the house. And what a lot of people do, while I was standing there filming this, I mean, this is the view of when I walked in. I'll expand the screen here so you could see more, but this is what I see as I'm walking into the estate sale. And it's interesting to me because I'm sitting there and I'm watching, I'm saying, how many people are going to walk right through this garage and walk straight into the house? And sure enough, a ton of people did that. I mean, there were some people that stopped and looked at things in the garage, but don't pass up the garages. You wouldn't believe how many good things I find in garages. So instantly when I came here, I found this plumb hammer that you could see I grabbed right there. Awesome piece. I'm looking forward to getting that listed pretty soon. I found some other interesting items we're going to see here along the way that I picked up. I mean, there was like a coupling link that I found. There were some window setting pieces that were in a nice vintage box. The Red Devil box that's back there, I think I'm going to grab that right now. Yep, that's also from the garage. You could see that as well, the Glazier's points. I just put that up, believe it or not, that tiny little box, I put that up last night for 14 bucks. And that recently did sell for $14.99. So there's the coupling link that I'm telling you about right there. So I picked that up. All this should be familiar to you if you came to my recent video. But if you're brand new, you know, this would be interesting information for you. So you could see the types of things. Now, they're not sexy items. They're boring items for the most part, you know, or at least for a lot of people. I mean, some people who are into, you know, this type of stuff might like it, but for a lot of people it's boring. Like this kind of thing is boring for a lot of people. It's a recessed soap holder, but these sell. Anywhere from 25 to 38 bucks, yet they're just sitting there. There's two of them right there on the shelf because they look boring to most people. So this is how you could find some of the gold. You know, it's hidden gold, but it's gold nonetheless. Not literally gold, but you know, metaphorically, it's you know, it's gold that we use. You know, that term for, you know, kind of treasure that we find at sales. It's kind of hidden treasure. So again, don't forget the garages. That's the next. That's the other tip. The next thing is to tell you, and this is just a general strategy, there's not really a video associated with it, but please stay calm and be patient at the sales. The number one reason why people fail at estate sales, and I see it over and over and over, and I just laugh, and it just makes it so easy for me when I go to the sales, is that there's all these people, and you think about it, they wake up really early, they get there the day before, they put their name on a list, then they get into the house, and I can't tell you how many times I hear this. This is overwhelming. This is overwhelming. I can't stay here. I gotta go. I can't take it. It's too overwhelming. I hear that all the time because there's so much stuff in there. In a lot of houses, you've got to just have a calm search strategy that you use, that you employ, and then you just systematically go room to room to room in priority importance for you. So like I said, for me, I'll start at the basement, then I'll work in the attic, and then I'll go to other places. If you could give yourself a bunch of time to be at that sale, like if you could just plan ahead and say, hey, I might be there for a few hours, that's how you're going to find a lot of the treasures. You have to be willing to put the time in. There's not a shortcut to success. Everything's not just going to be laid out in front of you to get. Now, another thing, and I've talked about this before in other videos, but don't feel the need to rush from room to room to room. There's some people that just frantically run from room to room to room to try to grab things because they're worried someone else is going to find something. And the way I basically describe it in terms of my rationale is, listen, if you get into the house and you get down into that basement, or you go straight up to that attic, or even if you walk straight ahead into a big collectibles room with stuff you like, think about this. You are in a room with tons of great merchandise to look through the source. Why do you have to go rush out to another room? You don't need to. You have all the stuff right there. So take your time, go through that stuff, and believe me, trust me, when you go into that other room, there are going to be other people that rushed out of there that still left stuff there for you. It's not like in the first hour or 2 hours or 3 hours that everything's just going to be, you know, completely removed from the house. It doesn't work that way. So again, stay calm, take your time as you go through the sale. All right, so let's go back up and we'll do some other video clips here. So the next thing, just in terms of a tip, is you need to make sure that you take multiple boxes with you in advance. I talked about that in preparation. This is a good example right here of me having multiple boxes with me right here. But the other thing I want to tell you about this, because I already told you to take multiple boxes, but what you want to do is make sure, I cannot emphasize this enough, make sure you keep those boxes near you at all times, because if you do not, I will guarantee you that another picker is going to come by and is going to grab things out of your box, put it into their box. You're going to turn around and you're not going to know where it went. Worse, someone might pick up your entire box and walk away with it, and then all your stuff is gone. So you do not want that to happen. Now here in this video, you can see these are two boxes of mine that I have here. One has the potato chip container in it, and you can see how I'm layering one on top of the other, and I actually right there had a sold sticker on it. So I'm gonna go back there. I'll show it to you in a second. It'll come back up. But I put that on there because I had to turn around and start working on this magazine rack, and that was the closest place where I could put all these things. And so I made sure that I had it near me, but I also took a piece of tape and I wrote sold right here. You see this white piece right here? I wrote sold on one side, sorry, and I wrote my name, Dominic, right there. And you can see I'm crossing it over onto another piece because there was this big vintage plane set that I bought as well. Let me actually pause that so you could see that better when we get over to it in just a second. So yeah, so right here, see, I bought this big plane set, then I also have this big box filled, and then I also have that box filled, and so I crossed the piece of tape over right to here to let the other buyers know, hey, hands off, this is my stuff. And that works. Buyers kind of know who are there, that kind of code, you know, not to mess with a box that has sold on it or has like a sticker on it or has your name on it. That's another thing you can do. You can write your name on the box. So don't don't be shy about carrying a box with you. And you can see the size of the box that I had with me because I knew in advance that this place was going to be crazy in terms of the amount of in terms of the amount of stuff that it had there. So keeping that box in close proximity to you, absolutely crucial. Okay, now this one is absolutely one of my favorites. In fact, ever since this happened, I have been wanting to make this video for you. And I know I talked about it in this video, but this was just one that I just envisioned as being a highlight of this compilation video that I did with you, which is, and again, this is where I get into groupthink, which is when that front door opens, what does everybody do? Okay, I just told you about what everyone does when they're in that line. They stand there and they stare straight ahead. Well, what do they do when that front door opens? They all rush in like it's Black Friday at Walmart, and they just blow right by everything. And I just laugh. Again, I just laugh. It's the same thing every single sale, and it's just so funny. So this is me actually reproducing what had happened earlier because I wanted to give people an angle. So just envision this. The front door of the sale opens, right? Everyone starts rushing through the front part of the door. I go through, so I start walking through like this, right? And I look up. Now, what do I see there? Right there, there's a closet, okay, that everyone walked by. But then I look above the closet, and what do I see? There is a cabinet. And in that cabinet, and I'll just bring this back a little bit earlier so you could see what I was pulling out of it. That's what it looked like once I emptied it. But let me show you what was in there before. If you don't remember this video, if you're new to my channel, okay, these are, look at this. These are all vintage machinery books that I bought. And a lot of those I've already sold for 50 bucks a piece. 50 bucks a piece. And there's two of them in there, modern machinery books, that I actually just got to listing. Actually, there they are right now. I have them on my eBay store right now for $140. That one, and there's a matching one with it. And you know, this was the House of Horrors video. If you didn't see that video, you got to check it out. Type in the House of Horrors. This place was absolutely vile. There was rat poop and dog poop, and I mean, it was just disgusting. But this was one of the few places where things were relatively preserved because of it being tucked up in that corner away from a lot of the other stuff. And the funny thing is, you can see that guy down there. He was going to grab my box. If you go to that video, you see me say, hey, that's my box, sir, because a perfect example of, if you don't have an eye on your box, what's going to happen. He was going to take stuff out of my box. And so found a lot of good things there. There's some auto parts book there as well that I sold. I just did really well with that. But again, the point is not to just blow by these corridors in these areas. There's an example of some of the stuff that I pulled out of there. And there's my multiple boxes I have. And that's my bag of tools, by the way. And we'll talk about that later, making sure you have those tools with you because they could really help you. But see, now I just take them out. You see how they're in layers? That's a strategic thing, is that now I fill that box up and I've got my other, see, I could put that other box right up top, and now I have a total of 3 boxes that I could use to help me out when I'm going around. So that's a way to just be efficient with your box strategy as you're going around the house. That's a very important strategy, because if you just take one box with you, let's go back to this right here. If you just take the one, the problem is you fill up that one box and there's other stuff to get. Well, now you're kind of in a tough situation. But if you've got these other 2 layered in there, all you do is pull them out, and now you could just start walking around them, walking around to sale as you fill them up, and just stack them one on top of one another. So just wanted to make sure that I showed you that stacking technique with the boxes. Very, very helpful and useful technique to use. And it's funny because when I go to sales, I've told you this before, people say, oh, you brought boxes, And even my favorite estate sale dealer, when I showed up to the sale last week, she goes, here comes Dominic with his box. And, I'm just known for doing that. And then once I get in there, you just see how effective it is and how much it helps just to be able to navigate these houses with all these items that you wind up sourcing. So boxes, very important, and not blowing by the entrance door when you walk in if there's something there to look at and to explore. The next tip, so this is tip number 7, is to make sure you unfurl posters. Now this is crazy. This is an estate sale that I went to at the end of the summertime. And Little Miss Primetime, my daughter, is actually filming this, and I go into the garage. So this is the garage area, and there's all these posters on the floor. Now remember, this is the end of the sale, so people have been through this all day. People are lazy. You got to also remember this in your head. People are generally lazy. So, it's not too, remember this also, it's not too hard to be successful if you're willing to work harder than the next person or the average person, because the average person is generally lazy. And that's the explanation for how I could get there at the end of this sale, bend down and unfurl this poster, which is a vintage 1972 Creature from the Black Lagoon poster right there, that I wound up selling for $67.50, even though it had all those dings and areas of damage on it. That's another thing, if someone did see it, they might have got turned off by it by thinking that, well, it won't sell because there's damage and tape on it. Not true. Doesn't matter. If it's an old vintage poster like that, it is going to sell. So definitely grab that. All right, we don't need to see me again right there. Okay, so unfurling the posters, very important. Make sure you do that. Now, the other thing, again, this gets into laziness again for the average person, is move things. Move things. Dig through boxes, move things around to be able to find hidden treasures. That's one of the reasons I call myself the Primetime Treasure Hunter. You can't call yourself the Primetime Treasure Hunter if you're not going to hunt for treasures. And so I like doing that. This is a perfect example. This is about an hour or 2 into the estate sale. This is the one that's, if you want to see it, it's called you can see the title down there, the Epic Haul. I love this one. This is one of my favorite things. Now, as I'm filming this, I have no idea what is in those yellow envelopes. None. All I know is that they're on the bottom, they're wedged in, and you can see the situation here is that we have magazines that are stacked on top and that are also coming down to the side. So as a result, and the other thing here, you see here is the metal edge of the bookshelf. So the problem is you can't pull this out because it's wedged in there. So how do you have to get it out? Well, you actually have to, get this, you actually have to move books. I'm being sarcastic, but this is actually a barrier for people, because if they would have just moved the books, and you hear me say this at this sale, I'm actually saying I really have a feeling that there's probably something good in these yellow envelopes because they're on the bottom. The oldest stuff is usually on the bottom, and because most people just won't get to it, so it just tends to stay down there for a long time and just tends to be old stuff. So I just start systematically moving all those magazines out of there, and then I start grabbing all these gems out of here. And I could tell you, I've sold a lot of these things off already. There are some great vintage cartoon pieces in here, great old advertisements in here as well. There was Little Lulu, there were Roy Rogers things, there was a Felix the Cat thing that I sold for like $99. Right, all things that are just stuffed inside of this envelope. Let me see if I could bring you up to that point here. Yeah, here we go. It's coming up any second now. Hold on. It's right here. Hold on. There we go. I mean, look at these things. These are from the 1950s, by the way. It's just absolutely amazing. These things are so rare to find these, and they're in really great condition. I mean, there are a couple of wrinkles here and there and some creases, but overall, they really were in great shape. And then in there's the original mailers for the Roy Rogers items and the Gene Autry items. I mean, every single one of these things just sold super fast because they're rare. So in that envelope alone, now that's nothing valuable right there. So you're going to get some random things in there that don't mean anything. But in that manila envelope right there was hundreds of dollars worth of items, and everyone just walked right by it. You know, there you could see. That's the original mailers for, I believe that one's going to be Little Lulu and Friends. That's an old 1950s comic book series, 1940s as well. Yeah, there's Little Lulu right there, and there's some of the characters. So you could go to that video if you want to see more of the stuff. But, you know, here you could see there's Roy Rogers and Gene Autry pictures as well. So, I mean, it was just crazy the kind of stuff that was in there. So, again, make sure you're willing to move things. And that's just one example of moving things. But, you know, here's another one. This one cracked me up as well. So this is like, I'd say probably like an hour or two into the sale. And I walk up into this room and I look against the wall and I see these tables. You could see here, I'm going to make this bigger so you could see it. There's these tables pressed up against the wall. And I just said to myself, well, you know, if someone's going to hide something, where might they hide it? They might hide it behind the things that are pressed against the wall. So I move the tables out and I look back there. Now, this is another point just psychologically. Let me back this up just a second to help you understand this, because it's possible someone may have seen those things peeking out. See that right there? Okay, now, why did no one pull that out and grab that? Why? Because what they're seeing is white and black. They're not seeing what's on the other side. Sorry, I banged the computer there for anyone listening on their headphones. But it's white and black. You can't, you know, it's not evident that it is something. And so people are that lazy that they actually won't pull it out to look. And that's all you have to do. It just takes a couple seconds. Pull it out, look, and you'll see what I find in there. Now, this part right there, that was just yeah, that's just a piece of flooring, but wait till you see what's behind it. That's a really nice Amile motor oil sign. It's a company from Pennsylvania. It's in terrific condition, just sitting there. And when people saw it, they couldn't believe that I found it. And even the estate sale dealer didn't even know it was there. And I wound up selling that as well. That was a great flip, and you know, she gave it to me for just a couple bucks. So I don't remember what the exact sale price was on it, but I know I did very well on it. So moving forwards to the next area there is to make sure you bring a screwdriver. I told you we would bring up the area of tools. So make sure, or the topic of tools, make sure you bring tools with you to unscrew items off of the walls. And just as a side related point, make sure you're looking on walls, make sure you're looking on ceilings, and make sure you're looking on the floor. Again, groupthink is for people to just look on tables and to look on shelves. You've got to get beyond that. You've got to realize that things that at an estate sale that are attached to the wall are things that you can unscrew and take off unless it's marked that you can't do that. And unless the estate sale dealer says, no, it's off base. But generally, these things are all fair game, and some of them will even have stickers on them. So price stickers. Like this one here, I'm even going to backtrack a little bit so you could see where I found it. This is in a basement. It's the first place I went to when I got to this particular sale. And I walked down, and lo and behold, what do I see? I'm going to turn the camera the other way in just a moment where you can see where I find the item. Right there, right back in that corner, still standing there. Again, this is like later in the day, so this is like 3 o'clock. Everyone just leaves this there. So I go over this item back here, and what this is a vintage. I'll show it to you. I'll just keep playing it as I talk about it. This is a vintage liquor cabinet. It's a music box as well, and it's also shaped, as you can see, like a telephone. Has the year 1901 on it. It's just a great, unique piece. It has some wear to it, but that's okay. The price sticker on it was $18. I wound up negotiating it down to $15, and I just sold it for, I believe, $72.50 the other day. So again, just sitting there. So again, you know, make sure you just, and you can see I have the screwdriver in my hand, and I think I show myself just you know, unscrew that from the wall. Let me see. If I do that right there, yeah. No, there I'm just looking at it from below. But yeah, I did just unscrew right off the wall, just a couple screws, and that was it. Another example, you know, from my most recent estate sale haul video, you might remember that funny light switch that I took right off the right off one of the walls. That light switch I have listed for, I think, $20 something right now in my store. I got it for like $1 or less. So that's a good one. Another good one that I did was here. If you remember this one, I went down into this basement. So again, in the basement, and that's another key point I should bring up. A lot of things that you will wind up unscrewing are in basements, because that's where people tend to, you know, just screw things into walls or screw things into like old cabinets that are kept down there. So when I went down there, a lot of people were complaining there was nothing in the house, but I'm sitting there saying, well, there's lots of things attached that I could detach from these walls. So this was one item, which was an old side pencil sharpener. I can't remember if this was the Boston one or the Chicago one. There was a Boston and Chicago one. One was loose sitting up top. I pulled up. There you go. You can see I just unscrewed it right up. There it is. Took it right off. I think that might be the Chicago one. But anyway, I sold each one of those for about, yeah, there's the other one. That's the Boston. So the one screwed in was the Chicago one. I sold both of those for between 30 something and $50. And I bought everything at that sale for $40 or $30, something like that. So I wound up making my money back on selling one pencil sharpener, which brings me to this item. This is one of my favorite ever items that I got off. You can see it's a vintage Craftsman vise. It's screwed in on top and below. So I had to have a lot of tools to be able to take that one apart. It wasn't going to come apart with a simple screwdriver, but I had socket wrenches and all sorts of things to get that off. And I wound up getting it out. And that was part of the deal, to get everything for $30 or $40. And that one sold recently for $140, and after shipping and fees, I made $100 on that one profit. $100 profit on that item, just because I was able to use some tools, bring a screwdriver, and detach things from walls, or from, it's not always from walls, but it's also from cabinets and other types of, you know, areas in the house where things might be screwed in. Another thing about estate sales, and you're going to see me doing this a lot more this year, especially after watching a lot of Craigslist hunter videos, but this is proven to be a very successful strategy that I've been using more and more and more, is to buy bulkier items that have value, as long as you could source them low. And I have videos on how to actually ship these things if you're scared about shipping them. But this is a great example. You remember these Anheuser-Busch ice boxes that I got for $6 a piece. You might see some of them in this video stamped 10, but I wound up getting them for $6 a piece. And I've sold 2 of them so far for $50 a piece. And what you're going to see coming up in a moment is an even bigger item. Like, that's not super big. That's like a medium size, but everyone left it there. Maybe because it was a bigger item than, the general item that you could pick up, put in your pocket, that kind of thing. But this one here, a big Anheuser-Busch box, and you got to kind of ignore the $18 price tag sticker on it, because when you buy a lot of things in bulk, you wind up getting discounts off of things. So all this stuff winds up, coming for one big general price at the end. And I wound up selling this one the other day for $82.50. The person left me positive feedback. They loved the item, and it's another great profitable piece. So look for those big bulky items when you're at estate sales. Another one, another type of thing to look for. Those were wood items, but look for DVD, VCR players. They sell very well. Vintage electronics, very well. 8-track players, stereo systems, all sorts of things. As we want to test them, make sure they work, but don't be scared off on those big bulky items. You can make a ton of money on that. Okay, we've got 2 more things left, and that just this is just one example of many, which is to try to buy things in lots. And as a side tip, asking people for things if you don't see it. So this particular estate sale, if you remember this one where I found all these pony magazines, and some of which have sold. I haven't listed it all yet, but I've sold some of them and already made all my money back on one sale. Look at all these books. I mean, it's crazy. All these vintage pony books, and there is a market for these things out there for the 60s and the 50s and the 70s. There were some that even dated back to the 30s. It was crazy. Don't be scared to buy these things in lots. That's how you get a discount. So wound up doing really well on this. And this came about because this was an estate sale where they had the stuff outside. All these things were inside, and I got these by asking the person who was running the sale if they had comic books. And he pulled out a couple old dusty comic books that weren't worth anything, but he said, well, because I also mentioned I like magazines and stuff and old magazines. So he's like, well, you like pony magazines? I said, I'm not sure. Let me see what you have. And he just brings out multiple boxes of these things. And I just said, I'll buy them all. And you buy all of them like that. I mean, that's, again, how you're going to do well. You're going to get to source the items for very low, and you're going to get a nice return on your investment as long as the items are, have some type of value. And that brings me to my last tip, and I would say kind of one of my favorite ones, kind of why I saved it to the end, and is like a little saying that I kind of want to share with you, which kind of relates to what I told you in the beginning when everyone's standing in that line and there's groupthink and everyone's staring straight ahead, is don't be a sheeple. Like a sheep just following what everyone else does. Don't do that. Don't be a combination of a person and a sheep, which I call sheeple. Other people, if I didn't invent that term, other people have used that as well. But this is another great example of it in this little picture. It's more a picture, not an actual. I could bring you back and show you some of the things I found, but this is an interesting one. So this is a basement. It's an estate sale that I went to, and what you have to imagine, because I don't have the whole view of it here, is that this whole part that's kind of off camera here, like you see where this guy is standing, like this room just keeps extending downwards. I'm like right here, see where this guy is? This is like a big giant table. That's what it is, a big giant table with a lot of like random kind of knickknacks that were spread out on it. Like screwdrivers and tools and things like that. And when I went down there, everyone was there. Everyone. You could not get any room to stand next to someone to look at anything. I mean, that's how packed it was. Everyone's standing there. So I'm standing back here, like with this view, and I'm looking straight back here. And I'm going to move my cursor here if you could see it. And it might be hard to pick out, but this is actually a room. It's a corner room. And I'm saying to myself, why is no one looking in that room? Everyone, I just made a sale. Everyone is looking over here, and you can see this guy. He's a guy who works at the sale, so he's just kind of monitoring everything, but no one's in here. So I say to myself, well, okay, I'll tell you what. You guys fight amongst yourselves, okay? I'm going to walk straight back here, and I'm going to have zero competition, and here's what I'm going to find when I go back here. So this is the actual rooms, just so you see. I mean, a lot of these things have sold, and have sold for good money. This is an old a photo timer. Look at that. I mean, that is a vintage timer. It's in great condition. There are other things I found here. One of my favorite things that I've told you about before were these vintage diagrams. These are original diagrams. The person there was a draftsman, and I bought this entire box for like, I don't remember the price, but it was for like $5 or something. I mean, like each one of these plans is worth like anywhere between $20 and $40. I mean, they're incredible pieces. And there was just like I found tripods in there and like all sorts of stuff, all sorts of old photo equipment. I mean, it was crazy. So, you could see how cool these pieces are. Like, if this is the first time you're seeing this video, I mean, just look at some of this stuff. It's just amazing. And again, I literally, that entire time I am in there, and I had to have spent about a half an hour in there, maybe at the minimum 20 minutes. And the entire time I was in there, I do not believe there was anyone else that came in there. Maybe one other person came in to peek in. It was a while ago, so I don't exactly remember. But, I mean, barely anyone. I mean, everyone was outside. So, again, just to kind of sum things up, don't be a sheeple. Start thinking differently. Think outside the box. Start to, just, look and see what is everyone else doing, and is everyone else missing something? And if they are, go to what that is. So, I hope that you found all of these tips helpful. I don't imagine that this is something you maybe all watched in one shot, because this is probably a very long video at this point, almost probably an hour long, maybe 45 minutes. But this is the culmination of a lot of work and a lot of estate sales on this channel. So this one had to be a longer one, and I wanted to just have this down here as like a definitive resource that you could go to, if you're planning to go into a sale, where you could just do this as a refresher. So when you go in there, you're all set and you have all sorts of ideas and strategies. And please, if you go to the estate sales and you use these tips and they help you, I want you to remember this video, and please come back to this channel, to this video, and put a comment down below in terms of what tip helped you out, and share details if you want. Tell me what you found. Tell me what you think it's worth. Tell me what you think you're going to sell it for. Or maybe if you already did sell it, let me know that. I'd love to know that type of stuff. That's one of things that keeps me going with this channel, is to get feedback from you that it's helping you. I mean, that's the main reason that one of the main reasons that I'm doing this channel, is to help you out, and to share some knowledge. So that's about it. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you hit the like button. If you want all sorts of other tips and ideas and strategies, you've got to come by to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. The link is right down below. It's free to join. There's so many exciting activities and things. I mean, it's really just exploding. I mean, we have well over 6,000 people in the group at this point, and I think we're going to be at 7,000 before you know it, at the rate that it's growing. All sorts of giveaways, be on the lookout items, all sorts of activities, and just fun stuff every day. No trolling, lots of supportive people there. So again, just come on by. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. That's @prime_time_treasure. And I hope to see you there, and hope to see you at the next video. I will try to probably go to an estate sale on Sunday. Tomorrow, I'm not going to be doing any sourcing. I'm going to be doing some family activities, but we'll see. I never know what's going to happen on this channel. I like to keep you guys on your toes, and so we'll see what happens at the next video. I don't even know what's going to happen, so hopefully I'll have one up tomorrow for you. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. See you at the next one.